And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 66 of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Googling whether white rhinos have teeth.
So
name. I'm Kent. My name's Kent. Hi.
Yeah. What's up, buddy?
So right before showtime, like 20 seconds before showtime, TJ drops on me about white rhinos and pulling their teeth. And he expects me not to Google that shit. So everybody's going to wait while I Google this. Do white rhinos have teeth? No matter what your ginger Fred says, some white rhinos use their teeth, not horns. Oh, this is a satire. Oh, well, fuck you. All right, I'm done. Anyway.
Well, it's what you get for Googling the onion.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't work. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, Googling the onion. You usually got to pay extra for that. So you can't blame us for dead air time. You know what?
That's for sure.
So, folks, saddle up, put your boots on. The shit's getting deep.
Yeah.
So tonight we are wanting to talk to everybody about a recent bill that was submitted to the House Judiciary Committee, currently identified as HR 127. Of course, there's a link in the description below, directly to Congress.gov's verbiage and text for that. In short, the short name of this, just to give you an idea where this is headed, the short name of this bill is the Sabika Sheikh Firearm Licensing and Registration Act. Say that 5 times fast. Yeah, Kent's not even gonna. Yeah, he's not even gonna try it.
Mm-mm.
So, folks, I want to preface this with the emphasis that this has been submitted to the House Judiciary Committee. Right. This is not going to be law right now. This is not a doom and gloom episode. This is meant to educate you on how bad things could get. Right. So Kent, you and I have been going over this bill. Certainly there have been other YouTubers in the gun industry that have done, certainly provided a fair share of coverage on this bill. But I wanted to get your initial thoughts on it.
Well, I think it's terrible. So here's the thing. My initial thoughts on it are these. I'm going to steal some of Jedi's vernacular real quick. We just had him on the show last week. He's been known for his, if you're on his personal social media anywhere, he makes these posts, "To my well-meaning liberal friends." Now, I don't want to make this liberal or conservative, but I will say this. It's not like we didn't warn you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to my well-meaning liberal friends, many of you have stated numerous times over the past many years, no, we're not coming for your guns. Well,
plot twist.
Turns out, again, you is, or at least a few of you is, right? This thing, they first of all, this, they had this bitch in the drawer, as it were. This is very similar text to what's been floated previously. This was uploaded January the 4th to the new Congress, right? So basically they got in there, voted themselves in a new raise, voted to pay their butlers for another year. And then certain members of the legislative Democratic team decided that this was their first priority. So I don't necessarily want to read folks the bill, but there's a couple of key highlights. Licensing of firearms, ammunition, possession, and registration of firearms. And if you read this, they're talking about an actual system that can be accessed by the public.
Yes. As a matter of fact, Section 2, subsection 932 requires the development of firearm registration database. Includes reporting who you might lend a firearm to. You'll want to give a gun, you want to let your dad or your brother or your sister or whoever borrow, your favorite hunting rifle. Maybe it was one that was passed down through the generations, or hey, maybe it's just a brand new one. And you want to be a good neighbor or friend and lend it to somebody that you know and trust. Nope, can't do it. Not without reporting to the Attorney General's office who is receiving it, by serial number, make and model, caliber, full description, and for how long they're going to have it. The registration, as Kent mentioned, leads to a database.
I have to read this out loud because it pisses me off so much. I don't mean to cut you off, dude. I'm sorry. The Attorney General shall make the contents of the database accessible to all members of the public, all federal, state, and local law enforcement, all branches of armed forces, all local governments. You motherfuckers think you're going to put my name on a list of guns that are owned
by serial number,
and you're going to post that shit on the goddamn internet. That, my friends, is a line, and it will not be crossed. I won't fucking have it. You're going to put my shit up on the internet so some thug-ass motherfucker can come hurt my kid in the process of trying to steal my stuff? I don't goddamn think so. No way in hell. How stupid can we be?
Well, and let's be real here. Even with the absence of that statement, right? Even without the access, let's just say the public doesn't get access, right? All sworn law enforcement officers, just like the NICS background check system, anybody can run a background check that has access to that system, especially FFL dealers, right? To a certain extent, the public. But even barring that stipulation, let's look back in the history book, shall we? Every single time there has been a mandatory registration, it has been immediately followed, shortly thereafter, by confiscation. Door-to-door confiscation.
Yep.
Pick a dictator that ultimately resulted, by the way, following the registration and confiscation, then in genocide. Okay. Call me a little sensitive to the subject, but I've seen this one before.
Yeah, really.
No, we know how this ends, guys. We know how this ends. So,
yeah, that's the part.
Interesting.
That's the part in this whole bill. You can make reasoned gun control arguments if you want. I'll even listen to them. I don't agree with them, but I hey man, you don't want somebody under the age of 21 to have a gun, or you don't want crazy people to have a gun. Of course, we don't know who gets to define who's crazy.
It explains that.
No, I know.
I took notes.
I know. But if you really justify for me why another American citizen should be able to go and Google up a listing of my privately owned property.
Yeah.
Exactly. What in the hell?
Yeah.
Why? There's no logical argument for that. That provision is specifically designed to hurt us. That's all it's about.
Yeah, and let's take the tinfoil hat off for a second, and you already hit on this point. Let's just even take away the tinfoil hat of, registration leads to confiscation, leads to genocide. Just the registration of the database piece. To your point exactly, accessible to the public means that, hey, Joe Blow and the gangbanging posse wants to go around and figure out which homes have the most guns.
Yeah.
So they can make it one-stop shop. Let's see, who do I want to hit? Do I want to hit Grandpa that's probably, has clearly got a registered double-barrel shotgun that's 150 years old? Or do I want to go hit Mr. Green Mountain Defense over here that's got certainly more than just a shotgun. Right?
There are things.
There are things.
Right.
It hurts my brain. I know you guys see me over here laughing if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, but it's almost comical how insane this stuff is. By the way, just for further context, this was introduced by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. I believe out of Texas. I can't remember what state she's from, but I want to say Texas. This is the same dumbass that thought an AR-15 was as heavy as 10 boxes you might be moving with and is chambered in a 50 cal.
Yeah.
Motherfucker. Really? Look, can we at least we know, look, this isn't the first time that this bill's come across the table, folks. We've certainly seen various iterations of this. Slightly different verbiage. All they do is they change a couple of words and resubmit it under a different name. So we've seen this before. Feinstein submitted something like this not too long ago. This is old hat at this point. It's to be expected now. I would be shocked if they didn't submit this kind of shit. But at least if you're going to submit this stuff, there should be a requirement or a prerequisite that you understand what you're talking about before you submit legislation dictating the exercise of certain rights. Right?
It's almost as though like they submitted a 20-wheeler transportation bill for trucks. And all the truck drivers are like, but we have 18 wheels. Like, I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah. Don't think about it too much, man. Your nose will bleed and your eyes will go crossed.
Yeah. So basically, this thing gives a shit ton of power to the Attorney General.
Yes.
Right? So there's a bit of consolidation of the administration of rights by the Attorney General.
Not to mention that, their rights.
Right.
This isn't something not enumerated. Not only in the federal the U.S. Constitution, but at every state.
Yes.
Even California.
Yes.
Has an amendment explaining this. Now, while it might be a bit smudged from all the ass wiping that's gone on with California's Constitution, as well as, the ass wiping of the U.S. Constitution that takes place in the state of California, New York, New Jersey, all of them, to certain degrees, have amendments covering the ownership of firearms. It's shocking to me. I just don't understand. And to our well-meaning liberal friends, if you want to understand what has us in such an uproar about this, just if you can find yourself capable to remove your bias and your preconceived notions for even just a moment, read this bill, and I want you to replace anything and everything related to a firearm or firearms, guns, ammunition, with it, etc., to speech and words.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine for a moment, communication, etc. Oh, you want to type 144 characters in that Twitter post? Better have a license. Better go through a psychological evaluation. Oh, because that shit's in here too, folks. We're just getting warmed up. So that's the database. That's the first part, right? Increases all firearms ownership to age of 21. Oh, can't read another part.
I'm over here Forrest Whitaker-eyeing like a motherfucker. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what happens when you drink Dayquil and NyQuil at the same time. But yeah, so I think what's really interesting in all of this, aside from the database, of course, because that I'll be honest, that's kind of a new one, being accessible to the public. So increases all firearms ownership to age 21. I've got a pretty interesting act of civil disobedience and peaceful noncompliance to that. As best you can, forbid any member of your family from joining the military until after age 21.
Yeah, no shit.
Right? So you're gonna retard our rights. That's fine. We'll retard the vast majority of your defense force for the United States, because the average age of at least in the Army, the average age of a U.S. military soldier is between the ages of 18 and 22.
Right.
So yeah, no rights for us, no standing force for you. That's what I said. At least that's how I would handle it. Knowing what I know now about serving in the military, I'll be damned if I'm going to let my son sign a contract at 18.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's props on you folks if you still want to serve. We'll have to hash those. That's a discussion for another episode. Okay. So we don't want to belabor that point anymore because I'm going to start getting pissed. Requires application for licensing. So implying licensing are required. Actually, doesn't even imply it. It specifically says licenses are necessary.
Yeah.
So keep in mind that this is you need a license to own the gun. That's a gun. There's a separate license for military style weapons. And there is a license for ammunition. The licensing includes, of course, a background check. You got to get run through the NICS system. It requires a psychological evaluation from a doctor that must be approved by the Attorney General.
I'm sure they'll all be, hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen.
Yeah, upstanding young citizens that are traditionalists or what's the word I'm looking for?
They won't be using fluid pronouns with fucking purple hair. No. They'll be just like you and me.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the word not fundamentalist. That's too radical. What was it? Yeah, the word's escaping me, but people that are true to the origins of the meaning of the Constitution as it was written. I'm going to make up a word, originalists. That makes sense, right? That makes sense? Yeah, I think that works. Yeah. So psychological evaluation by an approved doctor from the EG. Mandatory 24 hours of training. I want to pause on this, Kent, because I think this is worth being the resident firearms instructor.
Here we go.
Yeah, what say you about mandatory 24 hours of training?
I say they swipe the whole rest of the bill. They leave that in, and it says, has to be done by Kent. Enter. I will be rich now.
Yeah, dude, you'll go GameStop.
I will go GameStop. So there's that. Here's the problem with mandatory training. Any cop, any soldier, any DMV employee, any human resources professional will tell you that people pay about as much attention to mandatory training as they do their spouse when asked to do a chore. Mandatory government firearms training will be dumbed down just like a driver's test. If anybody wants to step to me and argue about the competency of firearms training with regard to government mandates, I will beat you to death with a shovel. It is not going to work. It's just not happening. I'm going to tell you right now. Nobody who's taken a driver's test would and then passed it at the DMV would ever go walking around saying, "Hey, I'm a professional driver." No way.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous.
Let's use that analogy because I think it'll help really put things into context. So with respect to driver's education training, mandatory training and mandatory criteria in order to get your little piece of paper that says you can operate a motor vehicle amidst, hundreds of thousands of other motor vehicle operators on America's roads. Also, at least as I understand it, in every state that I've lived in, has not only required that training, but a mandatory predetermined amount of time where you are driving on the road with a licensed person, right? A responsible, licensed and good standing person. Usually your mom or your dad, older brothers and siblings, I think are approved in that case. That is the government's acknowledgement that their own training is complete horse shit. Because if the training was any good, you wouldn't need the on-the-road practice.
Yeah.
That's like saying, okay, we'll give you a license to carry a gun, but you got to be in at least 3 firefights first with your firearms license permit, not the license license, but the firearms permit in order to come back and take the test, right? Oh, God in heaven. So look, folks, here's my whole spiel on mandatory training. Do I think that if you are going to carry a gun, you should get training? Absolutely. Do I think that even to the extent of at the risk of sounding somewhat pro-gun control, I think that there should even be a government mandate to get training, not to the intent of limiting your ability to own a firearm and exercise your Second Amendment rights, but to the effect of, if we look at the original, the originality as is outlined in the Federalist Papers on what was meant behind the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia. Regulated meant equipped and trained, right? So having the requirement to get training, I think we can certainly agree on that part. What I do have a problem with is that the government steps in to dictate what that training might be. Let's rewind about 10, 15 minutes ago when I mentioned the person who submitted this bill thought an AR-15 weighed whatever 10 boxes you might move with weighs, and is chambered in .50 caliber. Do you trust that person to make popcorn, let alone stipulate what constitutes adequate firearms training over the course of 24 hours? No. In my opinion, the way that should be approached, if it was going to be approached as a mandate, you should allow a consortium of reputable firearms trainers in the public, right? The Jedis of the world, the Vigor Trainings of the world, the Kent Howers of the world, right? Let these guys come together over a period of 6 months or a year to establish what a fundamental level of adequate training would be, to the extent of saying that someone is quote unquote well regulated, i.e. equipped and trained. That's my spiel on it.
Or you could just follow current federal law. Title 10, Section 246, Armed Forces Act, Militia, Composition Classes, Paragraph Alpha. The militia of the United States consists of all able-bodied males aged at least 17 years, except as provided in Section 313, Title 32, under 45 years of age, who have made significant effort in training and munitions. Wait a minute. You're telling me current federal law almost requires all men our age to have guns?
It sounds like that. Now, my question would be, and we don't have to read into it, Kent, but in Title 10, does it go on to explain what sufficient skill set or adequate?
No, it's
like, so that's my problem with the whole thing.
1792 vernacular, right?
Yeah, but there's and that's the issue. There's no metric, and we talk about metrics all the time on this show, right?
Yep.
There is no metric to what is good enough, and right. I can certainly see that certainly requires some, but at the same time, these jackass pencil pushers and whatnot in the federal government are not qualified in any way, shape, or form to stand upright, let alone to dictate what good enough is when it comes to being adequately trained with a firearm.
Yeah.
They're the reason there's instructions on Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. The idea that the government is going to now, see, here's one of those things that I've often thought that would be a compromise. So we always get asked, gun owners, why won't you guys compromise? Well, compromise to me anyway is when I get something and you get something, and we both give up a little in between. So if they want mandatory training for, let's say, handgun owners, why not hold the training out as the stick? But the carrot is, I don't know, nationwide CCW reciprocity. Maybe. No. Government.
End of war tonight. Make that deal. I'll make that deal. That's it. Yeah. What do you think? That's a damn good deal, right? Yeah. Yeah. I can extend the olive. I can reach out for the olive branch over that. Sure. But yeah, to your point, there is no there has to be compromise first.
Yeah.
They're not saying compromise. Translation, you surrender.
Yeah.
That's what it comes out to. That's what it comes out to be.
And I'm tired of surrendering.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been dealing with death by 1,000 cuts. And I'll be honest, folks, we're not calling out, Kent's already said this, we're not calling out any one party in particular. It just so happens that the most egregious firearms legislation or anti-firearms legislation that comes across is often introduced by people from the left side of the aisle. But dare I remind you that the gun control bills that are passed predominantly take place under Republican administrations.
Yeah, the Republicrats are no better.
Absolutely.
We have problems.
Yeah, National Firearms Act, Gun Control Act.
Yep.
Reagan. Right?
Absolutely.
Brady Bill, signed and passed by a Republican House.
Yep.
Teed up for Clinton. Right? Most recently, bump stock ban, which, by the way, good job on the peaceful non-compliance for that one, folks. Pat on the back to you.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's
millions of these were sold, but nobody has them.
That should be their tagline if the company wasn't defunct now.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, SB Tactical, tell your marketing guy to hit us up.
SB Tactical is not defunct. The bump stock company is defunct.
No, they're not. But I mean, they tried to go after him not too long ago. At least the 13 out of 20 some odd, or 18 out of 20 some odd models that they had pre-approved. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Let's see. What else do we got here? The psychological evaluation. Now, I think this is interesting because, as I mentioned, there is a licensing requirement that has the psychological evaluation mandate. The mandatory 24 hours of training. In addition, if you are going to own a military-style firearm,
which is all of
them, right? Especially if you go through this bill, you'll see the very short description, casting a wide net there, folks. So there is a separate licensing criteria for military-style firearms, right? Also includes a psych eval. However, the psych eval for owning military-style firearms includes at least 2 additional family members, current spouses, former spouses, associates they're of your family, and so forth. They could interview your coworkers, right? Not to mention the ex-spouses thing.
Oh my God.
That doesn't throw a red flag, does it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, great times. Yeah, there's no way that this person would have some type of vendetta against you for whatever reason to prohibit you or to speak up and prohibit you and throw some sort of false flag out there. Yeah, it's maddening. So here is where it also gets interesting. The criteria for denial. Now, this is specifically mentioned underneath the military style firearms section. However, I believe that this applies to the entirety of the situation. Denial shall be remitted if anyone is diagnosed as having a mental illness, disturbance, whatever the hell that means, a diagnosis including depression, homicidal ideation, suicidal ideation, attempted suicide, or addiction to a controlled substance within the meaning of the Controlled Substances Act, or alcohol, or a brain disease, including dementia or Alzheimer's. Kent, you're a dad, right? You're a husband. You provide for your family. You work a lot. You know, many jobs to provide for the missus and little man. You ever gotten a little overwhelmed? Maybe, dare I say, felt depressed?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when my dog died a couple years ago, I was depressed.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys seeing the size of this loophole that they threw in there?
Yeah. I mean, you could even, everybody. So literally everybody at some point will lose someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
There will be a death in your family.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me you're not depressed?
Right.
Well, so now they're just going to, oh, hey, man, I'm really sorry about your Uncle Larry, but where them guns at? Like, it just goes on and on and on. The goal, see, the problem is I can at least respect an opponent in a negotiation or an argument who comes straight away and says, look, this is my goal. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. These guys won't do that. It's very obvious to me that it is the goal of many of the political elites in this country to limit, if not entirely remove, private firearms ownership.
Yes, absolutely.
If they would just come out and say that, then we could talk about it. But instead, they'll do this.
Right. So, by the way, if you're keeping track, we're up to 2 licenses, and we haven't even gotten to the ammunition part yet.
Right.
So there's a license for ammunition as well. So here's the thing with that licensing. Fee. You know, one of our viewers actually mentioned, you know, can you say money grab? Yeah, that's exactly what this is. It's them taking away your constitutional rights and you paying them to do it. What the hell?
Yep.
Oh, and furthermore, there's also a mandate for liability insurance in this bill.
Well, I've already got that.
Well, now you don't have insurance. Well, yeah, you might because of the firearms instructor thing, right? But every Joe Blow like me that isn't a firearms instructor, we don't have insurance. We have memberships to legal defense teams, right? Yep. We have group retainers for self-defense situations, CCW Safe, USCCA, all those different vendors out there. So that in and of itself is a fee, right? You have to pay that private company, whoever it might be. By the way, has to be approved by the Attorney General again. You have to pay for that. And on top of that, there's a fee to the federal government, to the Attorney General's office for that insurance of $800. Let's just even say you can squeak by with the affordability of a license for a gun, for some ammunition, and maybe you can even squeak by for the membership to a legal defense retainer, right? Let's say roughly around $300-400 a year for that.
Yep.
If that wasn't starting to break your bank, an additional $800 fee to the Attorney General is certainly going to add to it. Right? All this stuff starts to add up. It is attempting to bankrupt us.
It's a fucking poll tax.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I would even argue that it's worse than a poll tax because it's taxing you multiple times on the same thing. Like imagine, like the best way to equate it to a poll tax, you had to pay to register as a voter. You had to pay to go into the polling booth. You had to pay for the use of the voting machine. And then you had to pay for your vote to get submitted and be counted. Like that is where the parallel comes from.
Yeah, well, in this case, it's just when I say poll tax, I mean a literal financial obligation to express a right. Imagine if there was some sort of a financial tax on the First Amendment.
Oh yeah. Oh, you have freedom of speech as long as you're using papyrus and quill. You want to use Twitter? Oh, got to pay the fee.
Dude, Papyrus and Quill is going to be the name of our conservative YouTube channel that we're launching, no matter what you say.
Papyrus and Quill. God help us all.
Like, so viewers, we're crowdfunding. TJ and I are going to start www.welikeguns.sohere'syourgunvideos.com or something.
Or something.
Right. TJ's just going to have stacks of servers in his basement with all your gun videos on them. And we're going to play them on the World Wide Web. And we're not going to hire Amazon Web Services to host it.
Well, there goes that idea.
Just saying. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah. So that about summarizes it. However, I'm going
to tell my rep to submit the Papyrus and Quill First Amendment Reduction Act.
Right.
Oh.
So before we get into the penalties, because they're going to outline penalties in this, which there are people doing less time for pedophilia and murder than what's outlined here. But let's talk about real quick just the prohibition on possession of certain ammunition. So 50 caliber or greater. Oh, you know that Great Plains rifle kit that you bought from Traditions that you completed with your grandpappy, before he died? that was 50 caliber. Nope, that's gone. Well, you can have the gun, you just can't have the ammo for it.
Well, joke's
let's
on
see.
you. I got a 50 cal round stuck in my Traditions Great Plains rifle that I can't get out
You
because
still can't get the.
I left the fucker in there.
You still can't get that thing out.
Oh, it's coming out.
Oh, God help us!
If
If you guys see me doing the show solo moving forward, we'll know that operation didn't go well.
there'll be a boot trader up at West Shore Sportsman's Range 8. Just saying.
Yeah, it shall be unlawful for any person to possess a large capacity ammunition feeding device. I don't even know how to take that. Like, no, but is that it?
I guess.
Or an ammunition feeding device, is that an actual clip? Like if the clip holds more than 10 rounds, you feed it into a big ass Mauser that has an extendo on it. What does that even mean?
I thought my Dillon was an ammunition feeding device.
Oh, the reloader. I was like, when did you get an arrow? It wouldn't surprise me, Kent. It wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
Yeah, let's see here. Just kind of going through this. The possession by an employee or contractor of a license under Title I of the Atomic Energy Act.
That's it. I'm going to start my own power plant.
Oh, God help us. Finally. Okay, hold on. They did define it. The term large capacity ammunition feeding device means a magazine, belt, drum, feed strip. Oh, so they did mention clip in there. Or similar device that has a capacity of or that can be readily restored or converted to accept more than 10 rounds of ammunition, but does not include an attached tubular device designed to accept and capable of operating with only 22 caliber rimfire ammunition. You put that 11th round in there, though.
Yeah.
Whoever knowingly violate, just for the large capacity. So we'll get into the penalties here for a moment, folks. But just to touch on it here, just to give you an idea where they're going with this. Just for the penalties for violating the ammunition restrictions, shall be fined not less than 50 grand and not more than 100 grand, and imprisoned not less than 10 years and not more than 20 years or both. So we're going to take your house and throw you in a cage for up to 20 years. And there are people that have committed multiple counts of murder that are getting out in 5.
You know what that means? Wait.
No, we're not going to encourage that.
Never mind. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's God, folks. Jesus. Once again, so if you're just joining us, just to reiterate, we're going through HR 127, which is certainly shorter than the fucking name they gave it. But we're going through HR 127. There's a link in the description. I encourage you all to read it and educate yourselves as well. But this has been only submitted to the House Judiciary Committee. There is no there is no inclination that we have at this point that this will in fact become law. However, it very well could, given the current climate, the makeup and composition of, both houses of Congress and of course the presidency. This has got a high probability, folks. So we got to be honest here.
All right, so let's talk about that part for a second.
Okay.
Let's not look at this as, oh my God, this whole thing's going to become law. It may not. How about we look at this as, this is the enemy's playbook.
Yes, absolutely. Their manifesto, dare we say.
This is exactly what they want, right? They have come out and they have said, we want, right? They're swinging from the fences, everything they want. This bill basically stops just so short of confiscation this time, right?
This time, yes.
This stops fucking that short of confiscation this go around, right? So what they're saying is in 2021, we want almost everything up to and including confiscation. Just this close. Now, that's the playbook. Is there any guarantee that every one of those plays is going to get run this year? No. But if you know anything about sports, you know damn well you better know the other team's whole playbook. Because there's no reason to believe that fake punt or that end around or that wildcat formation won't come up at some point. This is their playbook. Are you okay as a gun owner with them executing any of these plays? If not, it's time to get off your ass and stop talking about it, right? We have a service. We have a job that we have to do. We have to talk about it. It's our TJ and I, neither of us really want to talk about this. My man and I have come like that close to the precipice of doing a politics show 6 times in the last year. And every time we almost do it, we're like, we'd rather talk about training, or we'd rather have this person on or that person on. And we'd rather. The truth is, yeah, we would rather. We don't enjoy talking about this stuff. We don't spend our personal time reveling and talking about politics, he and I.
Yeah, we've intentionally gone so far as to stop watching the news.
Yeah, really. My point being is we have a responsibility here to do this. Therefore, those of you who can hear us, so do you. What does that responsibility look like? First of all, I'm going to list off a couple of organizations, and we can talk about them in detail if we want, TJ, or we can just list them. If you're not a member of some sort of a gun rights organization, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So Firearms Policy Coalition is national.
A personal favorite of mine.
Right. The Firearms Owners Against Crime, that's Pennsylvania specific. For me, that's a personal favorite. The Virginia Citizens Defense League. Those guys pulled off a 20,000 man march with guns in Virginia, and nobody got hurt. BLM should take note, right?
No, it wasn't BLM. It was what was it? Not fucking around gang, not fucking around crew. Something
NFAC,
about not fucking around.
Not fucking around. Yeah.
Yeah, those assholes.
Those guys, right? While they're still here, the NRA. The NRA is the largest body of gun owners and has the biggest legislative impact. As much as it pains me to say it, I'm a life member of the NRA, and I will continue to be while there is still one, and I'll do anything I can to help there still be one, because that's a big deal. The Gun Owners of America,
also a personal favorite.
Yeah, they're kind of like your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving gun rights organization.
I'd say they've become to that degree. I'd say they've become there. The GOA started really strong, but I don't know, man. I haven't been seeing a whole lot from them lately, and frankly, I've gotten a lot more mailers from them. It's very NRA-esque in their behavior. That being said, I think they're getting more traction than the NRA has in recent history. But jury's still out. I'm going to continue to be a member of GOA and FPC. But FPC is absolutely a personal favorite of mine. Yeah. And to your point, I would even agree that even the NRA, we've got enough. They do, as defunct as they may be currently, they do have still a very loud voice in the caucuses in the various houses of government. They do.
Yep. Let's see. Industry-wise, if you're in any way in the industry and you're not a member of the NSSF, I don't know what to tell you. That's a real good one from an industry lobbying perspective.
Yeah, National Shooting Sports Foundation.
Yeah, and then some guys that where I really cut my teeth in gun politics and went to some of my first rallies and actually went to the state houses and stuff was with Gun Owners of Vermont. Well, Green Mountain Defense is called such because it started in Vermont. So Gun Owners of Vermont is another big one for me. That and your local sportsmen's clubs and your local shooting organizations, right? Join the local ranges around you, whether you intend to use them all or not. I mean, for God's sakes, they're only, most of them are only $100 a year or whatever. Try to help some of those places out too.
Yeah, I would even go so far as to broach the topic before you join those or before you join, more specifically, excuse me, at the local level, because one of the things that always kind of puts me off from the local boys club is when you actually have them define for you what the Second Amendment means. So what we're trying to identify is a FUD club, right? Those people who believe, the people who believe they're all for gun rights as long as it pertains to hunting.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Sorry. Do your due diligence, folks. These are certainly some reputable organizations that we've listed off for you. But before you go and join the local scene, ask these questions, right? What is the Second Amendment to you? What is the right to keep and bear arms? Don't just throw your money blindly at these organizations and not question them on where they stand. Know that your money's not being wasted just supporting the preservation of ducks or some shit.
Now wait. Don't you goddamn dare touch my ducks.
I wouldn't dream of it. It's too cold and not enough meat.
Just saying.
Yeah, no. Well, your ducks are safe for me, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
But you see what the point I'm trying to make is, folks, there are certainly local organizations that are specifically catering towards, the key principles and tenets of a respectable hunting organization, hunters' rights organizations, the maintenance and management of wildlife preserves, the maintenance and management of hunting licenses and things like that. Very much having dominion over, species, population, species control and whatnot. And then there's the organizations that are no shit. Second Amendment means America, right? In this case, while all those other organizations have their place, in this case, we're trying to direct you towards those that are actually going to go fight the bullshit that we've just spent the last hour reading off to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do we fight these guys, right? So, number one, stand up and be counted. So, $25 will get you a membership to most of these organizations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just listed off. Join the national and the local gun rights organizations. That's the first and easiest thing you can do to help fight back. Mm-hmm. Not so much about your dollars, although if you do have any kind of financial wherewithal that you can donate, I would suggest that you do so. More importantly than the dollars, though, are the numbers. So when these organizations go to the halls of Congress and they go to their state houses and they go talk to the hoity-toits and the muckety-mucks, the professional lobbyists that your money pays for can walk in that building and say, I represent 4 million Americans. And it's no shit. I represent 20,000 Virginians. I represent 7 or 8 or 10,000 Vermonters. I represent 2 million Americans. Whatever, I'm just kind of doing the numbers off of some of these different organizations. All these organizations can stake a claim to, hey man, we got some serious numbers in our ranks.
Yeah.
And that's very valuable from a legislative perspective. Because the truth of the matter is as much as these folks have their morals or their beliefs or whatever it is that they're operating off of when they govern, I can assure you their number one priority is being reelected.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute that they believe that their reelection is in question because of some choice that they make, they will make a different choice.
Yeah, because sadly, a lot of them, the public service has turned into a livelihood.
No, absolutely. There are notable exceptions. There are people who are in the legislative sector who I believe in this stuff as fervently in the opposition as we do, right? If you've been shot by somebody with a gun and you want to be anti-gun, all right. Every time I get kicked in the nuts, I'm anti-sneaker. I get it. Your anger may be misplaced, but at least that's a noble thing. But for the most part, these folks, they're just trying to get reelected. And they are doing this whatever this is, and if they vote on it, and if they make this law, they will do so because they believe 50.000001% of us want it. If they believe that more Americans want gun control than don't, they will take such action. Which gets us to the heart of the real reason we need guns in the first place. This country is quickly becoming an oligarchy.
Mm-hmm.
We are supposed to be a representative republic. There is not supposed to be majority mob rule. If 51% of this country thought it was not okay to be female, and we started slaughtering all the females, that wouldn't be okay. Right? 51% does not rule this whole damn country.
No.
And it cannot, and it should not. And the minute we allow it to, and the minute that kind of decision-making is allowed to continue to fester and grow in our country, I believe, sadly, there will come a day when these firearms that we are discussing will really be needed to protect myself and my loved ones.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're talking about.
Well, and to that point, I made the mention earlier, to our well-meaning liberal friends, if you replace all the words in this text with anything of and pertaining to the freedom of speech, right, or anything otherwise guaranteed and outlined and enumerated by the First Amendment, you could say, yeah, but that would never happen. All right, well, if they're successful with this, who's to say that the next bill won't be about the First Amendment or the Fourth Amendment or the Fifth? The list goes on, right? The Second Amendment guarantees the preservation of all other enumerated rights. It's that simple.
It absolutely does.
It's that simple.
Not to mention guarantees the ability for us to protect our homes and ourselves and our families where the government at large has proven woefully inadequate. Look around you. The riots, the chaos, the craziness. That shit that the techno gods and the media continue to spin back into your face until you're fucking nauseous. That shit is really happening.
Yeah.
So, just saying,
absolutely.
folks, there's reasons we believe in this, and they're very deep to us. A good friend of mine, who I happen to train with quite frequently, likes to say something to the effect of, I don't want to round anybody up, but I'll be goddamned if I'm going to be rounded up. That's why I'm training.
Exactly.
That's the whole,
So what's another thing people can do, Ken? I am actually a big fan of actually writing your representatives.
Yeah. So here's the thing. All those organizations I just said are great. And they all have a write your reps or a take action or a communicate or a tell them how you feel button where you can go and you can put in your name and you can donate a couple bucks. And then they will send all the appropriate government representatives a pre-written, pre-formed email from you that starts off something like, "Dear constituents of the 18th District of Texas, I find it abhorrent that you have taken such action against our constitutionally founded rights. Heretofore and thereafter, I feel as though," and these guys read this shit and they go, "Yeah, it's another form letter." Yeah,
I'll do you one better. Has anybody ever heard of an email sync?
Yeah.
And by sync, I mean SINK, not SYNC, right? Yeah. So during the upper, the rise of COVID-19, as I'm sure many of you can imagine, there was a rash of email scams that all started out in the subject line with COVID-19 something or other, COVID-19 relief package. Click here to see the latest the latest numbers from the CDC about COVID-19, blah, 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 blah. It got to the point where hospitals were setting up rules in their email where anything of and pertaining to COVID-19 in the subject line would automatically get dropped into a sinkhole. So we go short and call it just an email sync or a traffic sync. What this does is it keeps your inboxes from getting cluttered from all the useless bullshit, because sadly, hackers to many points are not very original in many cases. They like to cherry pick and borrow from each other. And the assholes don't even give credit where credit's due. How shady is that? Anyway, there's common themes that...
TJ's like, that was a good scam I came up with. God damn it. I'd at least like the credit for it.
Right? So all it has to do for, it's going to start falling on deaf ears. It's going to get to the point where they're going to see that subject line and not even read it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So take the time to craft those original communications to your representatives. You're going to be sitting on your ass watching cat videos or TikTok videos or whatever the fuck people are watching these days. You might as well sit down and spend those 5 minutes to write out a well-thought email telling your actual representative how you truly feel. Now, I will caveat that with saying, if you start out that email with, guess what, motherfucker, and go all Tiger King on him, probably not going to get very far. Would you want to...
Carol Baskins.
Yeah, Carol Baskins. If you received an email that started out with something like that, you tyrannical scum, you piece of shit, whatever have you, right? Would you want to read it? No. You wouldn't. So let Kit Kat videos. Thank you, Bullet Sponge. But let the cooler heads prevail. At the end of the day, the time for violent revolution has not yet come to our doorstep. And there's no reason to get wrapped around the axle over suggestions, which is exactly what this bill and those that have come before it are. So let cooler heads prevail. Take the time, put together a well thought out communication, and you'd be surprised you might actually get a decent response back. I have never, ever gotten a response to one of those pre-canned, click here emails. I've certainly filled them out. Being a member of FPC and Gun Owners of America and so forth, I have absolutely taken the time to fill those out. Well, fill those out, click a few buttons and hit send. Never gotten a response to them. However, every single email that I have taken the time to type out and send to my representatives, both at my state and federal levels, I have always gotten a response from those. And not pre-canned bullshit letters either. How about them apples?
Yeah. I've had actually really good success with that. I have a Democrat representative, a Demo publicrat, right? A lady by the name of Cheryl Delosier. And I honestly, and I'm not I don't mean her any disrespect. She's kind of a rhino. She's a Republican in name only, more of a moderate. What I would say about her is that she votes her opinions on stuff, whatever that stuff might be, right? I have had detailed correspondence and communication with her on this topic where I have a no shit email chain with this lady with her thought out responses and my well thought out responses and her questions. And, well, how does this affect your business? And what do you think about this? What do you think about... not for nothing, but your representatives are supposed to do what? They're supposed to represent you. If nothing else, in this case, at least feel heard.
Right.
I've had positive interactions.
Yeah, and we could always say that, what if it's falling on deaf ears? What if no one's listening? I'm a conservative in California or New York or whatever. Hell, maybe you're a Democrat in Montana or Wyoming, a place that's traditionally conservative in nature. I'm a big fan of at least being able to say, I told you so when the shit finally hits the fan. If someone is punching you in the face and the other guy is holding you down to prevent you from actually defending yourself, are you going to not say, at least, please stop?
Right.
You got to do something. And short of a violent uprising, which is not in the cards right now, it's certainly not warranted. At least there's a very fine line between freedom fighter and domestic terrorist. And that fine line is generally dictated by timing and, of course, propaganda, but we'll get into that in another episode. Right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Now let's play with this for a second, right? So we had a to all intents and purposes, an attempted violent insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. That was all labeled, every person involved was labeled a domestic terrorist. They provoked the situation. Now, if we were to switch that situation up a little bit and have a similar response to people, to an armed force of government agents that was starting to attack the crowd, that was beating women, children, and puppies, and they were in turn attacked in response to that action, a bit of a different narrative, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Right? So we have the opportunity to be the gentlemen and the ladies at the table. You can be respectful and curt without being volatile about the situation or contributing to the volatility of the situation.
Yeah.
It's very much I'm not going to start the fight, but I'll sure as shit finish it. It's same attitude. It's at least that same attitude.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, do you want this? What is it that you really want? If you really want, and there are people, I think there's a certain subset of gun owners who really do want Civil War III, Yippee-Ki-Yay, or Civil War II, Electric Boogaloo, or whichever one we're up to now, right? Some of these guys really seem like they want this. Of course, the common theme there is the dudes who are loudest about wanting it are the most absent when it comes to training and the most unqualified when it comes to their skill sets. But yet they yammer, right?
Of course, I would also go on a limb and say that the vast majority of those people who want it haven't seen what they're asking for firsthand.
Right. Yeah, that's that whole, nobody I know.
It's real easy when you're hiding behind a keyboard, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Justin's exactly right. Too many video games, movies, blah, blah, blah. We don't emphasize this much on this show, but TJ's been some places and seen some things himself, right?
A minute or two of it, yeah.
Right? Any of that you'd like to see come to our shores?
Hell no.
Right. Oh, hell no. Of course not. Why? Because our fucking kids and mothers and wives and shit live here is why. Nobody wants this. If you do want it, you're on the fringe and you're not on my side of this. I don't think.
Well, I mean, it's a simple. I mean, you can even break it down into simple mathematics, right? So, during the Iraq incursion, whatever you want to call it, the Iraq War, Operation Iraqi Freedom, U.S. military casualties numbered in the between 4,000 and 5,500. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Through the totality of the war. Do you know what the civilian casualty count was for that conflict?
Yeah, no.
Upwards of the hundreds of thousands. Yeah. Hundreds of thousands. Right? Now we could, you want to be cold and crass about it and say, oh, well, they're probably supporting terrorists and this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. Think about the context in which we're framing this, guys. You want, those of you that are claiming you want the Civil War and all that other bullshit are not considering the civilian cost on a situation like that.
No, of course not. There's a very high probability that if such a thing were to occur, you would lose your loved ones. Here's
a thought for you. Let's just say that the thing on January 6th was successful. Right? We take some casualties, federal government takes some casualties, whatever have you. If for every one person that lost their life or was seriously injured in that event, 10,000 innocent civilians were equally maimed or killed in that, do you think both sides would have taken a step back and reconsidered their situation and what they wanted to do?
You'd hope so.
You would hope so.
History tells us maybe not. Yeah,
maybe not.
I mean, that's
of course. I would also venture to say, to that point with the history part, all of the aspects of or all the historical events that have involved those type of metrics that have contributed to those metrics were never experienced firsthand by the people ordering those events to take place.
Oh, of course not. Of course not.
Like you have people violently and loudly banging on the doors of the halls of Congress.
Right.
And you've got congressmen and congresswomen cowering behind their desks in the pews of that hall, suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. It's like you would think an IED went off next to their head. There are people that have literally walked away from burning vehicles that were scattered to the four winds from a bomb going off underneath the road, literally under their ass, that have probably suffered less emotional and mental trauma than you have for 5 minutes of mild inconveniencing.
Yeah.
Get off your horse with that shit.
Yeah, that's that whole, you want to talk about privilege, there's privilege for you. I don't see this going the way people think it's going to go. So the first thing we're doing really is or at least what I'm doing here is I'm calling out our side, right? Quote unquote.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
The gun people who are talking shit. I don't see it to range. You can't hit a B8 from 25 yards, let alone 5 yards. You have no idea how to run a rifle. You talk about the classes. You don't come to them. Shut the fuck up. You're not going to do anything. You don't have to.
We can even take it a step further. Kent, how many times have you been asked, is it time yet? Is it time yet?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Every time. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have to ask that question, you ain't fucking ready for it.
Yeah, not only that, but
like it's hard stop, to quote Jedi, right?
Yeah. Who asked the second part of that's even perhaps worse is, why the fuck am I the guy you're calling to ask that question?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Not only if you have to ask that question, but if you're asking somebody like me or Kent if it's time.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. TJ and I will be down here doing a podcast someday. We'll come up, the whole thing will be over. We'll be like, no.
It's going to be wartime correspondence with TJ and Kent.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck? We don't, I hate to tell you this, but if you think, whoever you are, think that there's some consortium of YouTube gun people / trainers / industry dudes who are
organizing
and organizing the great coup of the Boogaloo, I can assure you, I'm not on the email. I know that much. If there is one, I'm just not that cool yet.
Did you not get the memo on the official letterhead?
No, the Super Friends have not activated and chosen me to be the spokesman. I have no idea, right? Like, that's how mentally tweaked do you have to be to fucking follow somebody's podcast or YouTube or Instaface or Snapgram, and that's the guy who's going to tell you about your life-altering decisions for you and your family. I'm sorry, man. I'll tell you this much. I will tell you this much. There are very few people on planet Earth who could get me to do some things like that. If one of the guys is on this show. I mean, if TJ hit me up and said, dude, I think we've lost our country, we got to do something. Probably time to do it. Of course, as our t-shirt states, we're doing freedom shit. Whose car are we taking? Like, pretty sure if it goes to hell, it's just going to manifest itself in a corgi wearing battle armor showing up at my doorstep with a note that says,
it's the carrier corgi.
The carrier corgi rolls in and says, Daddy needs covering fire. Like, I guess I'm going to have to drive south.
And Kent comes running in like Cyril from Archer. Covering fire!
Suppressing fire! Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. No, so that's the problem there. So I'm calling out our side. Now I'm going to call out the other side. I'm going to tell you what, dude. If you think that your Tybo class has prepared you to fight the next Civil War, if you think that your latte whipped up Starbucks soy fed fucking whatever, all of a sudden because you do some CrossFit, you're gonna show up and you're gonna fight the revolution, and what, defeat fascism, I guess. I don't know
You
what
better
you're
you
writing.
you better have some really bloody soy in your diet.
Yeah, dude. It just is
Like
not gonna happen.
you're gonna need more in your nutritional plan than wheatgrass.
Yeah. It just ain't happening. Whoever you are, that you're on that side of this and you're thinking, well, you fascist, if I want your guns, I'll come. I've basically had conversations and had messages and stuff, we are coming to take your guns. And my response is always the same. I'm like, who's we?
Yeah, Kent, next time you and I are in the same location, please point these people out to me. I really want to go ask them a question.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Like, come on out. And that's the thing. It's never somebody in your phys. It's always.
I'll be real with you. This is I won't even have my gun. I will have a pebble when you can take the pebble from my hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Jujitsu Ginger activate form of wrist lock.
No, I wouldn't even have to go that route.
Yeah.
I'd threaten them with a gentle breeze and a stiff fart.
It's just silly. It's like, dude, we are coming. I'm like, we? Who the fuck is we?
Like, hold on, slow down there, Legion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's just that always gets me because really, what you're saying, if you're saying that this is what you want to have happen, you're not anti-gun. You're just anti me having a gun.
Right.
You want the people that you hired to come take mine to have all the fucking guns. So you're not really even anti-gun. You're just anti-me, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I give you, credit where credit's due. My dad jokes have been pissing off people on the internet lately. I could very well see where you would actually hate me enough to want to hurt me, but don't claim you're anti-gun, because you're not. You are actually pro my 18-year-old cousin being ordered to come take mine. That's what you are. That's actually like who exactly you are. You are pro my brother being dispatched to come take mine. You are pro my cousin being dispatched to come take mine. You are pro many of our mutual good friends being dispatched to come take my stuff. You're not anti-gun. You're just the elitist. You just don't want me to have it.
Yeah, flexing that white privilege over there.
Yeah.
So, by the way, in a shining light of good news, speaking of coming to take your guns, as I understand it, the Knicks background check numbers for January of 2021 have topped 4 point something million alone. This is the first time we have had a single month that we have broken a record every single month for like the last 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Somewhere the attorney general's like, fuck, I gotta hire staff. Like, I can't do this on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I can't count all these.
Yeah. So, we are coming up to the magical time, folks. But just to reiterate, and Kent mentioned this. This is their playbook. This bill that we've been going over in this show is their playbook. This one bill would certainly be what I consider a knockout blow. But honestly, this is not what I'm overly concerned about. This bill is so fanatical. I would even venture a guess that there's probably going to even be some Democrats. They're going to be like, oh, hell no. Are you out of your damn mind? This is ridiculous. What concerns me is that the individual plays, right? So to Kent's, I'm assuming football. I don't play the sport, so I don't know. But his football analogies, it's a game of inches, right? This is death by 1,000 cuts. If they pass a single line of this legislation in the next omnibus bill, the next stimulus package for COVID relief, whatever have you, piece by piece, bit by bit, as these things get implemented, you will see them encroaching upon that first down line, eventually that touchdown, right? One step at a time, inch by inch, cut by cut. We're going to lose our rights.
TJ, you remind me of Leonard in The Big Bang Theory when he has to go watch the football game at Penny's apartment. And he's like, yay, sports ball team. Go get points. I love you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I never got into football. It wasn't my thing.
Yeah, well, it is okay. So anyway, guys, there's some stuff you can do. Write your reps, join up to gun rights organizations. Here's the last thing I'm gonna ask of all of you. Please represent us well. Okay, guys. If you're part of our fan base, if you're one of my students, if you're one of TJ's many knife making fans or whoever like that, represent us well. Us being the professional people in the gun industry, us being trainers, us being gun owners in general. I count all of you amongst us. Everyone who's come on this chat tonight, I count amongst us. Everyone who's silently just listening and hearing my voice. I know there's more of you hearing than YouTube tells us there is, because every time I'm somewhere, somebody says, hey, I heard that thing you said last night. I'm like, that's funny. YouTube didn't tell me you were listening. But anyway, whoever you are, I think you're one of us, probably. And if that's the case, do a good job and represent us well. Speak articulately. Be factual. Be knowledgeable. Be helpful. Be welcoming. Help us grow our numbers. And at the same time, do a good job of articulating the arguments. Don't get sucked into definitions of assault weapons and fucking high capacity versus standard capacity magazines, you know, and we've all fallen into this trap. You get so annoyed that, you know, AR stands for Armalite. You know what, man? Nobody cares. I care. That's not true. I do care. But
you're getting sucked into arguing semantics. When
you're just arguing semantics, right? The actual truth of it is you'd be way better off articulating just some of the points. Just say, anyone who wants to talk to you about HR 127, just say, hey, look, do you really think it's a good idea for there to be a public registry database of firearms and their owners? Can you not see how the criminal element would take advantage of that? That's an undeniable, undisputable, very articulable argument with almost no legit support from the other side. I can't imagine, you know, I'm as up for the debate team as anybody else is. And I got thrown off the debate team in high school for saying, yeah, well, fuck you. That's my sister. That actually didn't happen. But certainly, right, like I've argued the other side just to try to see if I could win it or lose it. Even with myself, I would hate to be tasked on a debate stage with being like, hey, man, I need you to argue for why a publicly searchable gun database is a good idea. I can't think of any logic to that.
Exactly.
I straight up, I don't know what the hell purpose that serves.
Well, the totality of this bill defies logic.
Right. I'm just picking an example. My point is, read the shit, whatever the shit is. Pick out 5 or 6 good examples and argue those points. Don't get sucked into the semantics, guys. And also don't get sucked down the hole of calling people names and libtards and, you know, communists and whatever like that. I mean, there are some for sure. If somebody's a communist, call them a communist. Bernie Sanders is a motherfucking communist. Sorry, he is. Like, you got to call a spade a spade. But there is hope here, and there is logic on both sides of this. We just got to find common ground. Mm-hmm. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, tonight's show has been brought to you by nobody, because sorry, sponsors, we don't want to beat you down and drag you down our political loopholes. Although I will say that I know many of the guys and gals that work with us feel exactly the same as we do. Mm-hmm. We just are not going to intentionally tie anybody's business name to politics other than our own. I've made that choice for myself, for my training company, for here tonight. And, you know, TJ and I have obviously made the choice for the podcast, and we'll go ahead and do that. So, you know, we're not going to do a sponsor read or anything like that. We'll just say thank you. You guys know who they are and where to find them by this point. You know, so support the people that support us. And GreenMountainDefense.com/training. I'll plug myself on my politics episode. I don't give a shit. GreenMountainDefense.com/training. You will find a new and improved updated calendar for 2021. You will find flexible round counts for training classes, which says bring what you have and yell pew when you run out, basically. In all seriousness, though, we're gonna do some things to limit the consumption of ammunition during training classes. You will find that we have allowed the use of .22 LR in both rifle and pistol classes. Right? If you need to come get reps, and that's how you can come get reps, and you want to learn and you want to take information in, and that's how you're going to be able to do it. Come on out, right? If you've got a 22 conversion kit in your AR rifle, if you've got a Ruger 10/22, if you've got a Glock 44 or a Mark IV or some other amalgamation of a 22 pistol, we'll help you figure it out. A lot of the concepts will translate just fine. The only concept that won't translate very well is recoil control, but we have ways around that. So, bring what you got, right? I will be providing limited ammunition for training classes, especially for privates. But thank God there's no ammunition registration bill here, because I got some, right? So if you guys need ammo for training classes, we can help supply you with that. And we're really killing it in the private lesson department. So if you want to be one of those people who gets to train with us on a reoccurring basis, you better soon get on that and get yourself on the schedule, because if you don't soon, you'll be forced to train with Justin.
Oh, God help us all.
That'd be fun. No, he's been helping with private lessons. He just stands there sulkingly, silently in the side, and then
it just sounds like you're threatening people with like the whoop ass stick. Like, I'm gonna get Justin.
Oh, yeah, don't make me bring in Justin.
No,
Yeah.
Justin's good people. We love you, buddy. Yeah, folks. Kent's right. We're gonna bar the ad reads for this episode. While we have affiliate links, we have
defense.com/affiliate-links.
Of course, we encourage, if you're going to purchase gun shit anyway, you might as well buy it and support the channel at the same time. But, what I'd rather see is you guys to save that 25, 30, 50 bucks and contribute it to one of the fine organizations that we've mentioned here. Donate to FPC, join the NRA, Gun Owners of America, your state and local chapters of various gun rights organizations. Tennessee's got one. Kent's mentioned a few for Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Vermont. Go out and join those organizations. That's where I want to see your hard-earned money spent. At least for this episode. Next week, you come back, you spend all the money you want with us. But with that, folks, we appreciate you all. We couldn't do the show without all of you. All those of you who choose to listen to our podcast, both here live in chat, participating with us, but also the hundreds of you every week that download the latest episode. Speaking of which, quick update, the episode from last week, the Jedi episode, is uploaded to your favorite podcast player. You can find us on Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, all that stuff. If you're feeling the whole anti-YouTube thing, hey, more power to you. You can still get great content at all those podcast distributors right there on your phone, many of which for free. So with that being said, we appreciate you all. God bless you. Take care of each other. And until we see you again, get out and shoot.
It's thousands.